I'm Deepak Chopra. You're watching New Realities.
Welcome to New Realities. I'm Alan Steinfeld, and this program has been about the evolution of consciousness and who we are as evolving human beings. And through lots of these programs, I've interviewed healers, people who've learned how to work with energy or are born with that ability. And that's why I'm very excited today to have Hanson Tse with me, because he's not just your regular healer. He wouldn't even call himself a healer in the traditional sense, because what I like about you is you have a philosophy. It's not just about making the person feel better. You're bringing a whole body of knowledge so that person can evolve.
Yeah, I've got a philosophy that existed before the healing work, essentially, or existed rather through the discovery of healing work, but it came through other channels as well. So I started in acting, actually.
But what's the philosophy called?
WAMBI Exploration.
WAMBI?
WAMBI.
Which means?
WAMBI Exploration. It stands for Wisdom Through Awareness and Mind-Body Integration.
Oh, so that's the core of your teaching and work.
That's essentially the core of my teaching. Yeah. And the healing work that I do comes out of that. Because WAMBI is essentially a process. It's an approach to living our lives and discovering ourselves.
To like the whole being.
To the whole being, exactly.
Because you just heal someone, then there's nothing to maintain that sense of wholeness.
We're so much, and healing is a way for us to get to know ourselves. It's a way for us to release the things that may be holding us back. But what about the things that drive us forward? What about the things that make us who we are and what we are? And those are the things that I'm interested in. So the healing work came out of that, and the desire to explore what we are.
Well, talk about the background of how that, because it's from acting.
That's right.
You weren't even intending to be any kind of healer or work with energy.
No, I didn't believe in healing at all, basically.
You were Western approach.
Exactly. Yeah, my father was a doctor, a Western doctor.
Oh, really? Oh.
And my family didn't believe in Chinese medicine even, Christian.
And so you were brought up in that kind of Western materialistic approach to the universe.
Well, Western medicine, there's either, drugs or surgery, essentially.
That's all. It's so primitive in a way.
Yeah, well, you might say that.
But anyway, so you wanted to acting first. Tell me that story.
Well, I actually I started in psychology. I don't normally include that in my process because I didn't really learn all that much in psychology about healing or anything.
But you started to study psychology because you wanted to know about people,
I
right?
wanted to know about people, and I wanted to know, basically what caused our behavior. And because I was into science and I was an atheist, I was interested in biology and I was interested in the body. And so in psychology, I started studying the brain and brain structures and neurotransmitters and things like that. In order to try to understand the human being.
Right.
But by senior year, it was fascinating stuff to me.
Where did you go to school?
Vassar College.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it was fascinating to me. But by the time I was a senior, it stopped seeming to have relevance on my life.
Right, that level of understanding psychology.
We were looking at these tiny chemicals in our brains, and it was like, what does this exactly have to do with my life? That's
and
not
human beings, right?
Yeah, that's not directly making my life any better. Of course, there's a place for that research and that knowledge, but I didn't feel sort of drawn to it anymore. So
that happened to me. I wanted to study psychology to understand people, and there were these statistic courses, very boring, and I took one literature course, and I said, wow, these guys know more about the human being than all those psychological textbooks,
it's true. I think in every discipline, there's some aspect of the human being in there, and every discipline out there is an attempt to try to understand ourselves
the humanities
as human beings.
Yes.
And that's what I'm interested in. And I didn't realize that for some years.
So what was so you took an acting course in your senior year, right? And what happened to you?
Well, when I graduated, I didn't know what to do with my life, and I just I knew I didn't want to do psychology. I knew I didn't want to go into medicine, and I thought, well, why don't I just live my dreams?
Oh, so you always had a dream to be an actor?
I did, and I didn't really know it.
Oh.
I'd never considered it as a reality because of society and culture, and you know, I didn't realize that as an Asian male, I could really be an actor, you know. So it just didn't occur to me. But I always had an interest in acting.
So when I met you, you were still acting, I think, about 10 years,
I
whatever
had
that was.
retired at that point, actually, but maybe I still thought of myself as an actor.
So, but what was it in acting that ignited the whole understanding of a human being for you?
Well, when I started studying acting, I realized very quickly in the first couple of weeks that I was learning more about human behavior through studying, through actual behavior than I did in 4 years of studying behavior from an objective scientific perspective.
Right.
So I was hooked. I was fascinated by it, and it was beyond, you know, high school acting. This was like real, the living of real emotion and action and truthfulness. So that was the first time that I was introduced to this idea of truth. And it wasn't truth in a spiritual sense. It was truth in an emotional sense. Like, what is authentic? Which is actually very spiritual, right?
It is.
That's exactly what a lot of spiritual...
So like you got, because none of us in our culture understands that essence of truth, because it's like just glossed over. So somehow you dropped into that place of real being.
I spent a few years in an acting class watching people behave and evaluating their authenticity, evaluating their truthfulness, and seeing, you know, how organic, so to speak, their behavior was. And when it was really organic and was really truthful, it was so powerful. I mean, it just hit you in your chest. I mean, and I think all of us have that ability to know authenticity. But through society and through all the filters and all the messages and everything, we lose the ability to, and that's why children are so...
So how did you get into the healing aspect? I mean, that woke you up to say there's something else going on here. Then how did that translate into becoming a healer?
It's a long process, but I'll try to shorten it. So we were doing Meisner technique, which is this. There's an exercise called the repetition exercise, or just repetition, where we repeat words to each other, sentences to each other, and then we focus on the emotional content, basically, rather than and what they call bouncing impulses off of each other. So the point of that was to be authentic, was to get out of our heads and to be present with each other.
I like what you're saying. So in acting, there was a kind of place where people dropped into that real moment, that authentic human being.
That was the purpose of acting. Yeah, that was the purpose of the exercises. Right. It was very difficult to do it. It took a long time to really get that ability to do it. Yeah.
So where did the energy and the healing and that, you know, wanting to, you know, send that energy to people start for you?
Yeah, well, I didn't believe in energy at this point. It took years for me to actually believe in energy and to realize that it was a thing. And that's even becoming more and more and more pronounced as time goes on now for me. And I've been at this almost 20 years on this process. But there was one day in acting class when a man from the Actors Movement Studio came into class, and I was thinking, what is this guy doing here? What does movement have to do with what we're doing here? And he took these two actors who were really struggling to connect with each other and to connect with that authenticity that we were talking about, and he took them from 0 to 60 almost instantaneously. Somehow he got them to connect deeply with themselves. It just became, you know, waterworks. And it was this tour de force all of a sudden. It became this riveting scene between these two people who were suffering and who were connected to each other and just sharing, you know, the moment with
became
each
real.
other. It became so real.
Right.
And I saw this happen in front of my eyes and thought, what is this? You know, I'd never seen anything like it, because I didn't realize that you could take a person and create acting. I thought it was more of a talent thing, maybe.
So you saw that, and then how did that translate?
Well, he started talking about emotions being stored in the body.
Oh.
And I said, what is that? I studied psychology for 4 years, specifically the biological basis for psychology, and I never heard anything about emotions being stored in the body.
It's big in Chinese medicine, I want to tell
It
you.
is, but we didn't believe in that necessarily either, or we certainly didn't study it.
That was a revelation, or like you doubted that?
Well, I just wanted to know what I saw was so clear, and it was so true, and I was interested in becoming a better actor, so I started studying actors' movement. And I wasn't getting the connection that I was looking for. And it felt like maybe there was more out there than they were even saying. So I started getting into things like Rolfing, body work, craniosacral therapy, I'm heavily influenced by as well. As far as my philosophy goes, not so much as far as my practice goes anymore.
Right. So then when did you realize you could start to do something to change people's energy fields?
Years later.
Oh, years later.
Years later.
But,
yeah.
And then well, then talk about the formulation of your whole philosophy.
So,
when did that? Yeah.
So I started studying what I considered was connected, right? So it went from human behavior to the body, to emotions and mind. I started going into the mind and seeing that all these things were connected, and nobody was talking to anybody else. So the acting teachers weren't talking to the movement people, who weren't talking to the body workers and the people doing healing work. And I realized that there was this greater picture of humanity that was beginning to emerge. And it was a question of how we could tap into ourselves, essentially.
And then how did you
And then how we could live our greatest selves.
So when was that moment for you where you kind of dropped into yourself and you started to, I wouldn't say quite channel, but you started to discover that place in you, that real place?
Yeah, well it's all real.
No, but that place where you can drop in and transcend your personality and send energy.
But that's part of acting too, Alan. That's what I'm kind of saying is I think like there's so much value to our behavior and looking at behavior without even talking about energy, without sort of even necessarily believing in energy. Because what I'm finding now at this point is that emotional energy is so important and so such a part of the healing process.
So when someone comes to you as to be, how do you work with them in that holistic way?
Yeah.
What's your approach?
Well, because I've worked with the body, tapping into the intelligence of the body, which is different from like something like chiropractic, where you're sort of aligning the body the way you'd like it to be aligned.
Right.
The body is actually intelligent and self-regulating. So you can tap into that self-regulation, speak to the intelligence of the body. So through that, through various other trainings that I've done and other practices that I've done, I open myself. Yeah, so anything that I do, right, if it's craniosacral, well, I don't do craniosacral anymore, but some people know about what that is.
Right.
So, you can touch the body very gently and listen to these rhythms that are occurring in the body. And by following those rhythms, you can then create change within the physiology of the body. And this is not energy at all in the sort of way that we think about it. There are components of energy work in craniosacral, but these motions are not what we typically think of as energy. So through doing that, I have a feeling of the body, and through all these various other practices of exploring the different corners of a human being, I'm able to open myself to whatever's happening within the person I'm working on. So,
what was the first moment that you realized you could do that, though, where you just could tap in or feel energy? Was there like after that acting moment, was there a moment where it's like, oh my God, there's a whole other universe here? Was there
there's many of those moments.
There was your ayahuasca experience.
There's many of those moments along the way, and ayahuasca did play a big part in that, yeah.
But was there a moment that transformed you into just watching, into being a healer in that sense?
Well, it's interesting. I believe that everyone has the ability to be not just a healer, not just do energy work, but be an extraordinary healer. Because I think it's a natural expression of the human being. So if we can explore ourselves across all of our levels, then we do become, we awaken these
Well, how
abilities
would you
within
tell
us.
everyone to be that extraordinary? What would you say to me or anyone watching how to be that?
I'd say do WAMBI Exploration.
So let's talk about WAMBI Exploration.
Well, we are. So,
Oh, okay.
so as far as I think what you're looking for, this sort of seminal moment,
Yeah.
like there are many of them. But what I would say is that there are modalities out there that key you into these extraordinary energies, if you want to call them divine, or theta healing is one of them. So I did theta healing for some time, and they connect you to what they call creator, or whatever you say. It doesn't really matter.
And you feel that, and it's not
and you
just
can feel it.
Yeah, it's not just a word like creator energy.
It's
like,
experiential.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's
Yes.
the interesting thing is like, there's this idea that you can't really know God. But actually, as far as I understand, everything in the universe is experiential. So when you put your mind on God or whatever that is, then there's a particular experience that accompanies it, which is different than, if you say the word dog.
Right.
There's a different experience, unless you're worshiping, you're in
This is
ancient
God
Egypt.
backwards.
So this experience can also translate into changes in a person. You can create transformation in somebody when you tap into this, whatever this expression is, or energy, if you want to call it. So from theta healing, then I started studying sacred activations, which my friend Tamara
What is that?
Oviatt.
I like how that sounds.
Tamara Oviatt is the founder. It is a modality that is also considered a God modality. And it is a matter of tuning into God or creator, and then allowing those energies to come through. Now, this is a different kind of energy than Reiki or something like that, where Reiki is kind of a physical energy, like you can feel the energy field sort of through your hands. This is kind of a vibration.
But I get that. Everything's a different sort of subtle frequency shift from one healing modality to the other. But getting back to your first point about living, healing is just an aspect of a bigger picture of who we can be as human beings, right?
Right.
So what is the WAMBI philosophy of living that includes healing that you've developed?
So basically it is an approach to exploring ourselves
So
as human beings.
give me
And
actually the
what
detail.
what it stands for is wisdom through awareness and mind-body integration. So if we take our minds can focus in different ways, right? So if we say focus on a narrow point, there's a particular expression of consciousness that occurs. And if we widen ourselves, there's an expression in our consciousness.
And actually
There's a
change the
widening.
field. I just felt that.
Did you?
I did.
There's a widening of consciousness that occurs. We can go higher in our consciousness, or we can sink down in our consciousness. We can go into our bodies. We can feel subtler and subtler phenomena that occur in our bodies or in our fields or whatever. So it's basically the idea that if we use our awareness to explore all the different capacities that we have, then we are able to live our fullest lives as our fullest selves.
So if someone's listening, how would they do that if they wanted to explore the full capacity of what they are?
So like that what I was talking about as far as the awareness goes, and that sort of pinpointed awareness, or the wide awareness, or all these different ways of playing with awareness. So we work with that kind of awareness.
Does that take a lot of practice, or
It takes practice, but it's worth it.
It's worth it because what does that get them? If
it gives you more perspective on life. It gives you more ability to experience life. So if you could experience life, for example, from a higher perspective, you can bring yourself up there and see yourself from there and experience yourself there as well.
Oh, it also gives us more of a capacity for our human potential of what we really are, how to use our mind.
Exactly. Yeah. And then when we link the mind and the body, then we are able to also express through the body. We're able to emote fully.
This is something you've developed on your own, this kind of focused awareness that you could bring to other people to change their consciousness.
I've basically drawn from every modality that I've studied, and when I started out, I realized that a lot of these modalities had these things in common. They have this aspect of concentration and awareness, an aspect of mind, an aspect of uncovering certain hidden phenomena, and hidden just meaning subtle. So like craniosacral, for example, and feeling those rhythms in the body, they're really subtle. It actually took me years to be able to feel them. And I'm sure there are people much more talented than me who can learn to feel them much more quickly. But when you do develop your awareness in this way across these different levels, then subtlety begins to open up to you.
And that's what you're training, and when you work with people, you're feeling their subtle field, right?
Field or whatever it is. It could be emotion, it could be energy, it could be consciousness, it could be the body. And I open myself to feeling all of those things at the same time. So whatever takes prominence, whatever takes center stage is what I end up working on.
Well, I do want you to work on, what was that? What
Sorry,
happened?
that's I'm just clearing. We're starting to work on
clearing
you,
me?
Alan.
Oh, you go ahead. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not start
I'm
with
sorry,
me?
it
No,
just
no,
happened.
don't be sorry.
Well, you were asking about it, so.
Okay. What are you doing now?
Well, that's a good question, actually. I open myself to everything that I can.
Why
And
are
then
you shaking?
This started happening.
I mean, it's okay, but why are you doing that?
Well, the hands, I started, maybe I should explain a
No,
little bit.
keep doing it. It feels good.
Well, some of the work that I was doing, that I've done before involves shaking and vibration.
Okay.
Or it involves different ways of expressing the mind, expressing energy. And so it was like a vocabulary that my hands were already speaking.
Is that when they start to feel the energy and vibrate it?
So yeah, somewhere along the line, I noticed that they wanted to do this in response to something. So, a lot of this is just listening and feeling.
Are you affecting my field, let's say, in this way?
Yes, yeah.
When you were concentrating more, I felt it. Now I feel a little more. Okay, I'll just take this. No, can you talk about what you're doing as you're doing it, or would you rather just do it?
It's difficult to talk about, but
Okay.
but what I'm doing with my hands is following what the field is doing.
I feel
And-
you're sort of rebalancing that.
Yeah, but all these things are intelligent, right? Just like our bodies are intelligent.
The fields are
our
intelligent.
energy fields are also intelligent. So I'm not necessarily doing anything to them. I'm kind of allowing them to tell me what they want. So, part of what this is with the hands, the jazz hands.
I feel that.
Do you?
I feel it.
Part of what this is, I think, because I don't entirely know what this is, right? But the results are very prominent.
Yeah.
Part of what I think this is loosening things up. So allowing them to release.
My philosophy is we think our bodies emanate in a field, but it's really the field that condenses down to create the physical body. So what you're working on is the energy before it's condensed into form.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, that's what I get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason I think the reason why I feel that way so strongly is because if I start on the body, I usually end up doing this. Like even if I'm working with the intelligence of the body, because there's so much in the energy field, and it does feel like the body is a
So you're working with
reflection of this.
the energy, the intelligence of my energy field right now.
Yes.
And you're breathing. When you breathe out, you're clearing stuff.
I'm
Thank you
helping
very
to clear
much.
as well. And actually, if I were to focus more, I could.
Okay, I won't interrupt.
No, that's okay.
No, I'll take it in.
I just want to show you another aspect. So like my hands are doing this, but then my mind is also now engaging in the process.
No, I'm as I stop thinking and asking questions, I'm dropping into that space actually a little more.
Yeah, people sometimes say that they experience a state of no thoughts when they receive this work.
Well, when I start to tune into it, I feel that dropping into that place. That
Beautiful. So if you wouldn't mind
peace.
taking a breath and allowing yourself to drop in even more to your body, into yourself. And again, I'm not doing anything. This is just my body responding. Sometimes what this is actually the nervous system expressing itself. But that's not the case at this moment, I don't think.
But I do feel something in those subtle realms of, feels more peaceful now. Like sitting at a river.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I feel myself dropped in now.
I do feel something that needs to be released.
Okay.
I don't know if it's quite ready at this time.
Okay.
But just to note, that's going on. If you do feel uncomfortable somehow?
No, I feel pretty comfortable.
Okay, good.
I feel good. I could actually just go to sleep.
We don't want to knock you out completely.
No, it's okay. I feel pretty good.
Good.
I don't feel like, actually, there is something being released on this side.
On the left side?
Yeah, yeah.
What's your experience of
It's
that?
like just a little sensation. Now it's subsiding, and then just, yeah. It was actually, when I think about it, it was amplified a little bit, like a little, not quite a migraine, but then it was like, okay.
Yeah, sometimes things will increase in intensity
Right.
while they're
I feel
being
that
released.
on the left side more,
Mm-hmm.
but now, and now it's activated, but the rest of my body feels calm.
As I was going along this process of studying different practices and modalities, I came across the psychic modalities, and I didn't believe in spirits until ayahuasca.
And then you couldn't help
I
it.
didn't actually need them to explain anything. I didn't really need God to explain anything in the work that I was doing. But ayahuasca basically kind of hit me over the head and was like, yeah, there's all this other stuff you totally
I
missed.
think some people need that just to wake them up to the fact that there's these.
Well, it completely changed my life, completely. But at that point, I already had the philosophy, and I'd already explored the human experience to enough of a degree. Actually, ayahuasca didn't really shift anything regarding the philosophy, because all it really was one of the steps along the path to exploring the human experience.
Your breathing almost feels shamanic. A lot of shamans
There are
come
aspects
in
of shamanism.
and they release the other person's energy through their breath, and so that's a shamanic.
Yeah, sometimes I feel that there's a release happening through the breath. Sometimes I feel like there's a clearing in the air that's happening.
Actually, you've never worked on me before. I've known you for a
I've
while.
worked on you briefly. I guess
Not
it wasn't
like this is more. I'm feeling you more.
Yeah, good. So there was a time after I had studied sacred activations, and I threw myself so completely into that modality. Like I disappeared for weeks in my bedroom, and I just did that modality
I'd like to actually,
nonstop.
that sounds like a great modality.
It's a fantastic
I'd
modality.
like to learn sacred activations.
Yeah, it's really powerful.
I want to interview that woman.
Absolutely. Yeah, Tamara Oviatt. So there was a point at sometime, after studying that, that all this stuff that I'm doing now started just coming through. And it was integrated with the body, with emotion, with expression. So I do some work that is based in acting. And it's not acting, but it's kind of like drama. But what it is just exploring behavior.
So you're doing this, but you're talking, but there's another part of you that's actually doing this healing or energy, right? I mean, it's not your conscious mind that's doing it.
It's not my conscious mind. Although, if I do drop in.
No, don't do that. You just
Well, I
change
did
the
earlier.
energy.
I did.
No. Yeah, now I feel it. Because when you drop in like that, then it's like shifted and...
No, that wasn't dropping in. I was just talking,
all right.
and I just shifted to my head.
Yeah.
But if I drop in, then there's another level happening at the same time.
Right. You want to drop in? Kyle, I'll drop in.
Yeah.
I'll drop in with you.
Okay, so there's something to be released, and it's not always really pretty. Are you game?
It depends.
There's. I mean, I'm the one who's gonna not look so pretty.
Really?
Yeah.
You mean, should I vomit?
Yeah. People have vomited actually.
I'm not going to vomit, but okay.
I was working on a
Okay, you don't have to
couple
look
people. Somebody with Lyme, actually. Yeah, I was working on someone with Lyme. And
No, we can release this. No, go ahead. I don't
okay,
mind if you
great.
don't look pretty.
So what this is kind of a, as I understand it, it's kind of like a cathartic release.
All right. Let's release something.
It sounds frightening.
No, it wasn't. No, I
sometimes,
thank you.
I mean, for the viewers, it sounds
okay.
bizarre, right? It looks bizarre.
It's whatever
But-
it is. I've been around lots of these things.
But this is a lot of my work is in being able to express ourselves in any way without judgment, and that comes from the acting.
I felt a pulling from here out. I felt like almost like a little stomach ache, and then like a pulling out through that sound.
Yeah,
So
that's how I experience it
it
too.
was like I'm still feeling that sensation, like something was activated. Now it's
And it's still there.
a little bit.
Yeah, so still working on that.
yeah. If you want to do that again, that's fine.
It's
Don't
not quite
strain
ready.
yourself.
No, it's not quite ready.
Okay, but
Yeah,
it was
but we're cooking.
okay. Okay. No,
Yeah.
I feel you are doing something. I
Yeah.
mean, actually, I feel more of a clarity, more of a just dropped in. I feel more in my body. I feel
Yeah,
like,
good.
like stuff like
Because these things keep us from our bodies, right? They keep us from being
Yeah.
fully present.
I shouldn't have had the lentils and eggs for breakfast. You know, like
Not
that
digesting
kind
too well
of-
right
No,
now.
I don't know. It's just sitting there. What are you going to do? But no, it's.
Oh, okay.
No, I mean it's fine. It's
Yeah.
good. No, keep going.
Usually people feel great after this.
I,
So.
I feel
but
okay.
we're not doing a full session
No,
at
do
this
it.
time.
Do whatever you need to do. I mean, I hope it's entertaining.
Yeah. So I think like, you know, when I, oh, sorry.
No, that's okay.
There's a quiet place right now. And it's not that the process is totally done. It's just kind of like a period of rest. Like it feels to me like a pivot point where your body consciousness kind of just wants to be right here, right now. And then the process will continue.
Even though you're not working, the process continues after people leave your office?
Yeah, because it's not that, again, it's not that I'm exactly doing anything. It's kind of like I'm tuning into the self-organizing, adaptive mechanisms, intelligent mechanisms that are in place. And they are going to just continue to shift on their own.
So you're tuning into the intelligent mechanism of my field that's been thrown out of place with all my personality thoughts and things I had to do. So it kind of throws the field out, and this is just kind of
Yeah,
bringing
it could be
back
anything.
into like a sphere, bubble, a wholeness. in
That might be a
sense.
way of putting it, but the process never ends. And I don't really believe in healing work just when you have something that you want to heal. I see it as really self-care and also potential. Like how can we reach our greatest potential?
Talk
You know,
about
and what
that a
is
little
that?
bit. Yeah, what is that? What is our greatest potential? What
That's a
is
good
it?
question.
How does it?
Well, so what I'm doing right now, I do this healing work because in part, like I do want to help people, I do want to heal people,
Right.
but in part, I do it to show people that this is something that's possible. So this is just one part of exploring yourself as a human being.
Which
know?
is one part?
this healing work that I do.
And what's the other parts?
There's just all the parts, right?
Right, and-
So there's like a man named Ido Portal who's a movement specialist, and his thing is movement. He explores all different kinds of movement.
Right.
And that's what he does. And you know, the movement develops it coordinates the brain and the body. It creates a different kind of consciousness, and it helps facilitate creativity, because when you're moving all the time, you're creating you're inhabiting a consciousness that's constantly shifting and growing.
This, I'm feeling, is also contributing to kind of creative ideas, and it's like you're pulling together the auric field back into a wholeness that allows me to have more potential because most of the time we're in the way of ourselves. So just dropping in and maybe pulling in those parts gives me a little more presence to be, and then from there I can act more in a more higher potential way. That's maybe
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me too.
Yeah.
Who knows if that's really happening?
You know what, my approach is different than many, because I try not to label things, because I think once we label them, then we get in trouble. We start attaching maybe a little too much to the label and to the concept, rather than keeping ourselves open to experience, because that's really what this is about.
If this is ongoing, you could do this forever with someone, right?
Well, there comes a point when it's pretty clear.
Oh.
Yeah, and for the time being.
We could continue this, but
yeah, we should probably.
But I just want to get people to give you a sense of who you are. Like, how would they find you? And everyone's different in your approach. It's not like someone might even need healing. They come to you, and you just create a greater potential for them.
It depends. If they want to come to me for healing, then I can give them healing. But I feel the best usage is really a combination of the healing work and teaching them, you know, how to use their minds and bodies.
Yeah.
And
Say
emotions.
a little bit about that. If someone comes to you and says, I want to use my mind and potential in a greater way, what would you do for them?
Well, I teach a workshop called The Art of Advanced Being.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, which is kind of a master class in what I do. And it's a 4-day workshop. It's 2 parts. One is becoming human. So it's about releasing our traumas. It's about being present and loving ourselves and exploring ourselves with non-judgment, exploring expression and movement. And then becoming metahuman is part 2, which is about the higher stuff, the yummy stuff, you know, with the, I mean, it's all yummy, it's all incredible.
No, but becoming...
But it's about the higher,
Right, becoming more than your body.
Spirituality and energy and all that stuff.
And then part 3?
To be announced.
Oh, no, but you said it's a 4-day workshop.
No, it's a 4-day, yeah, so it's 2 days.
I
yeah,
see.
2 days each part.
But can you just leave us with like your bigger vision of the planet and who we really are as human beings?
Well, this work shows me that suffering can be relieved. Deep suffering can be relieved, and not just over years, but quickly. And it's beyond anything that I've seen.
How is that relieved quickly? Just like
through this energy work, through, like, for example, that release that I just did, and then expanding and aligning your consciousness to one that is open, you know, and one that is able to relate to the world and yourself.
So
clearly.
people suffer because they put themselves into a limited box, right? And
yeah, but it's not their fault necessarily. It's
No.
society's.
so you help them get out of that box and feel more
like,
the human being.
Well, there is no box to the human being, right?
Right.
I mean, if we're to close our eyes and feel ourselves in this room and open our hearing, for example, like, how far can we extend our consciousness? We can imagine the universe, right? Our consciousness can extend forever, essentially.
Right.
There's really no limit to it.
Right. That's good.
So,
I'm going to use that in my classes too. No, that's a great use of the mind, is to just extend it into time and space, into the infinitude of.
yeah, but I think there's this like idea that I play with about consciousness having shape, you know. And in fact, one of the things that I've done along the way is Taoist martial arts, and My teacher refers to the art. It's called, loosely translated to mind-body boxing or Xing Yi Quan. But he refers to it as shape of the mind fist, which I think is a beautiful.
No, I get what you're saying when you say shape of the mind, and we have that control to shape our mind into any place or form that we want to do. And we haven't been taught how powerful we are.
We're so powerful.
As mental, mind, conscious creators.
Exactly. So I don't know the upper limits, and I don't think that's something that we can know. But what I do know is that when we can relieve our suffering, we can expand our consciousness, and we can improve our relationships with each other, then I know that peace is possible. And I know that this world can come together. Because it's through, I believe, the expression of the human being, through exploring ourselves in our totality, we can then relate to each other in our totality, rather than through our intellect, rather than through ideas that don't connect. Literally and figuratively, we may not agree politically or whatever it is, right? But our thoughts are also only in our own heads. They're not actually connected to each other. They're not actually even connected to the world. They're just
fabrications.
There. But if we connect through feeling, right, then we're connected. And we can do that. We can release the barriers.
And that is what makes us more human. It's the feeling.
Exactly.
It's like just that,
like feeling close to you, Alan, right now, is we don't have to talk to feel close to each other. We just have to be okay with this.
Yeah.
And be okay with ourselves. And that's pretty easy, actually.
Yeah, and also when you allow that presence to be felt, I actually feel more of who you are as a human being, your deeper level of compassion.
Likewise.
And what you're really trying to do here, that, sort through all that stuff and create like a school of thought or a way of being that will really uplift people.
Yeah, it's not a philosophy in saying like, okay, these are the points. And you could do that to a certain extent, but I think when we do that, it becomes a little too narrow in focus. It's just basically the idea of exploring ourselves throughout our capacities and seeing what happens.
Well,
if you want to just simplify it.
No, I really appreciate that. Thank you for being
Thank you so much.
A guest on New Realities. And how do people find you?
You can find me at hansontse.com, HANSONTSE.com.
You doing private?
I do private healing sessions,
okay.
as well as teach workshops.
And do you sometimes live with a person to help them retrain their whole life?
I would do that.
Okay. You would do that.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. Thanks for being
so
a friend
much,
for so many years and now finally being able to do this. This is Alan Steinfeld for New Realities. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, email me at newrealities@earthlink.net or go to my website, newrealities.com, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/newrealities. Hanson Tse.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, everybody.